Lesson 4, Circumference. So, circumference is the distance around a circle. It is like perimeter, but for some reason, circles get a special name for the distance around them. It's called the circumference. So what we're going to be finding today is the measurement of the outside of a circle. And in order to do that, we have to review a couple of terms that have to do with circles. When you have a line that extends from one side of the circle to the other, right through the middle of the circle, that is called the diameter. And when it's just halfway from the center point to the edge, that is called the radius. Excuse my very messy writing. All right, so in order to find the circumference, we have to know about a pretty special number in math, and that special number is represented with the Greek letter pi. And pi is a number, it's a decimal that never terminates, it never ends, it keeps on going forever and ever and ever and ever. And the reason it's special is because if you take any circle and divide the circumference measurements, the outside distance measurement, by the diameter, you will always end up with pi. So that's pretty cool, and we can use pi to figure out some different measurements for circles. So since it's a number that keeps on going forever and ever and never stops, to simplify things for today, we are going to use a rounded version of pi. So when your booklet says pi, please substitute it with 3.14. That is a rounded version of pi. It's not the whole number pi because it keeps going forever and ever. Just use 3.14. All right, so then if we use 3.14, this becomes a very simple formula to use. To find the circumference, we simply take that 3.14, or the rounded version of pi, and all we have to do is multiply it by the diameter. So in this case, 3.14, our diameter is 7 centimeters, and you just multiply that to get the answer. And if you would like to, for today, to speed things along for yourself, you can do that decimal multiplication on your calculator, because what I want you to focus on is making sure that you write out all these steps and you're getting used to working on formulas. We spent enough time on decimal multiplication that I trust you know how to do it. One more thing to be aware of is that our answer here is not centimeters squared. We have been working with area, which you would have to put your units with squared at the end, but we are back to working with something like perimeter. So think to yourself, it's not area. I don't need to have centimeters or kilometers or miles squared, whatever it is. So make sure you don't put that little squared behind your units. Then one more thing to show you is that you can use this formula to figure out some different measurements. So let's say you have a question where you are given the circumference. You know what the distance is around the circle, but you don't know what the diameter is. You can use the exact same formula to find that diameter. So you take your formula, you write it out, and then you simply plug in what you know. For this question, we know what the circumference is. So I'm going to put that there instead of C. We know what pi is, or at least the rounded version of pi that we are going to use. We do not know what the diameter is, but we can still figure out what it is with the information that we have here. And once again, you have to think about algebra. So thinking about what, excuse me, what is being done to the diameter. It's being multiplied by 3.14. So in order to get rid of that, we have to do the opposite thing. So we have to think to ourselves, in order to get rid of the multiply, we have to divide by 3.14. All right. And in order for this equation to be true, in order for that equal sign to be true, what we do to one side, we do to the other. So I'm going to take my 12.56 and I'm going to divide it by 3.14. Remember that when we use a fraction symbol, it means the same thing as divided by. That's a good algebra habit to get into. So now we've got the letter by itself, which is always the goal for algebra, and all we have to do is 12.56 and divide it by 3.14. If you punch that into your calculator, you should end up with an answer that the diameter is 4. Okay, so making sure that you are following each of the steps, you write out your formula, you plug in all the information you know, you follow those algebra steps of think what's being done to the letter, do the opposite thing to get rid of it. Make sure you do that over on the other side and you shouldn't have any problems. And that's how circumference works.